B is good.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
B as in Coach B. That's right. That's great.
That's Coach B.
Yeah.
Let me
Yeah.
say
Your
bye.
mommy is a great student. You know that? Your mommy is a great student. She was my student a long time ago, and now she's back.
You say thank you.
Thank you.
Say have a good night.
Have a good night.
All right, thank you so much. You too. All right, so welcome everybody. Welcome to our kickoff Zoom meeting about business research. And what I have up on the screen, let me know if you can see it, is the syllabus for our class.
We can see it.
Okay, fantastico. So I had posted for you the book for our class, and one of the ways that we're gonna orient ourselves to research, right? The topic of research is we're gonna talk about the Cola Wars. So by now you should have already downloaded the Cola Wars case study. It's less than $5. I think it's actually $4.25. So that's a requirement for our course, and we're going to talk more about the Cola Wars. Can you see on the screen Blackboard?
Yes.
Okay, great. So that's the custom link for our class. So don't search the Harvard website. Use this custom link, and I'm going to show you why. And each class is a different link. Like if you're also in 7257, the Global Communications course, the link is different. Right, so this is, you'll know that page, right, the right website, because you'll see this custom message. This is specifically for our course. So that's the link that you should use. I sent it in email a number of times, and also it's in the announcements. So that's the course that you need. That's unique for our class. So you'll come to this landing page here, and you'll see it says my name, it says our course name. You'll see a message there for me about the beverage research focus of our course, right? So your executives that are collaborating with me, Coach B, to study the beverage industry. Now, the beverage industry has multiple segments. So the beverage industry in the US is more than $200 billion per year at retail, and there's multiple segments. What are some of the segments, some of the major segments? Or let me ask you this. What do you think is the largest beverage segment in the United States?
I would say Pepsi, because Pepsi, believe it or not, has like not just only drinks, but they also have, you know, a snack line as well. Maybe I'm wrong, but I believe it's Pepsi.
Well, Pepsi is a very large, multi-billion-dollar beverage company. And as Shantae mentioned, Shantae, there's somebody on the call this evening that actually has been my student for a longer period of time than you, which is actually quite a long time. You and I have been through a lot together over the last half decade, right? And I'm so delighted that you're in this class. But Eve was my student in, I can't believe I'm going to say this out loud. Eve,
I'm going to tell them my age.
No, they're not going to know your age. They won't know. But Eve was my student in 2006. And yeah, 2006. That can't be right. How is that possible? Wow. So, wow, 15 years ago? Wow.
No way. That long?
I know. Yeah. Yeah, we were all young then. But so Eve, like all of you here this evening, decided to pursue her master's, which is a really terrific idea because you're developing skills that are going to help you be successful. And that's what's critical. So we're going to use Excel to analyze a data set, which is an important skill that you need to have. The more experience you get with Excel, the better. You know, as I told you many times, everybody says, oh, I know how to use Excel. What's going to differentiate you is you're actually going to have a project, that you could share that proves that you have experience in Excel. Not that you're going to be an expert. I'm not trying to make you an expert. What I'm trying to do is make you job ready in 5 weeks so that you could hit the ground running doing data mining, data analysis, and data visualization. There are so many jobs in this area. I know every semester you say, Coach, you told us that. I know, and I'm going to keep telling you because you could get paid to do like some of the things that I'm going to help you do this semester, which is to analyze data, right? And certainly you need to know how to use Excel. In some classes, I work with the team to use SPSS, other semesters Tableau, but it's important. And I want to give you a sense of perspective as it relates to the process. Okay, so particularly for our course in research, it's important to keep in mind that that is the early part of the process. And what I mean by that is when we talk about research, we're talking about gathering data. That's what the research process is about, is gathering data. And there's a number of ways that we could do that. We could conduct quantitative research, for example. Quantitative research, an example of quantitative research is surveys. So having participants complete surveys. Typically, in most markets in the United States, a meaningful sample size is between 1,200 and 1,500, right? Yes, we could talk about how to crunch the number, but having conducted an extensive amount of research professionally, I could tell you that statistically, there's not a lot of difference, if any, in my opinion, between whether it's 1,200 or if we crunch a number and find out that it's 1,357, right? But if we get a sample size in the United States of 1,500, right? We get 1,500 respondents, then that's certainly, if it's a representative random sample, going to be very insightful. So that's an example of quantitative research. An example of qualitative research is focus groups. So focus groups is literally a group of 10 to 12 participants and a moderator that facilitates a conversation. So you have to prepare a discussion guide. The focus group research, right? If we're initiating focus group research, or if we're initiating survey research, that's considered primary research. So it's important to make a distinction as part of our study between quantitative research and qualitative research. Quantitative research allows us to make statistical inferences because the sample size is large and presumably it's representative of our target market. Who is our target market? Is those who we want to buy our product or service. But qualitative research has a much smaller sample size. It is very insightful. Qualitative research, I'm urging you as an executive to, as part of your efforts when you're leading a team, when you're trying to figure out ways to increase the revenue and profits for your organization, to conduct qualitative research. The sample size, it's much lower. So typically what we do, and what I've done, is you'll conduct 2 rounds of 2 focus groups. So you'll have a total of 4 focus groups with typically no more than 12 participants each. That's only 4 dozen. So after going to 2 different cities and conducting 4 focus groups, you're not going to have more than 4 dozen participants, right? Input from 4 dozen participants. That's very different from quantitative research, which typically would be approximately 1,500 respondents. So the sample size for quantitative research is much larger than qualitative research, but the qualitative research is critical. It's critical. Now, again, you can't draw statistical inference effectively from qualitative research because the sample size is so small. In quantitative research, yes, you're going to be able to say through some analysis, doing descriptive statistics, for example, you'll be able to say for a particular data set, 72% indicate that their favorite beverage is soft drinks. But in a focus group, which we said is qualitative research, you'll have some people that will say, yes, soft drinks is my favorite beverage. And some will say, alcohol is my favorite beverage. And some will say, iced tea is their favorite beverage, or water is their favorite beverage, or orange juice. Orange juice is their favorite beverage, or milk is their favorite beverage. But you can't quantify that. Again, we just have one person said this, one person said that. Now, that's insightful because what we're going to do is use that qualitative input as part of our quantitative research, because that's how we're going to determine some of the key things that we're going to want to question people about in our survey. So again, we need to make a distinction between quantitative research and qualitative research. Who could tell us now what is one of the major differences between quantitative research and qualitative research? What's one of the major differences between quantitative research and qualitative research?
In the quality research, we just point basically the quality, right, of like what specifically we are gonna search to improve the project. And the quantitative research, I think, right, is that basically like trying to find different websites, and of course as well, right, motivated to like find the best and to improve the research. But it's basically just to find different websites to like improve, like, I don't know. I'm just trying to.
Yes, I think the big difference between them, quantitative research is about numbers or data, but qualitative research it's about words, meanings, explanations like that.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you both made very good points. Both gracias and yes, yeah. Thank you very much. Those are both insightful aspects in terms of qualitative research and quantitative research. Yeah, certainly surveys, for example, are quantitative in nature. It's numerical, but the reason for that difference is because of the sample size, right? So one of the questions on the exam asks about the sample size, whether or not the quantitative research has a large sample size or a small sample size. So quantitative research has a much larger sample size than qualitative research. So the population, right? We have to make a distinction between the population and the sample. When we say the population, we don't mean, for example, necessarily the entire population, let's say, of the United States. It might be that's what we want to study, but typically that's not the case. But the population is typically like all people who drink soft drinks. That's an example more likely of what the population would be for our research study. So the population would be all those people who drink soft drinks. And the sample is a subset of the population. So we can't have everybody who drinks soft drinks complete our survey in the United States. That's millions of people, right? That would be very expensive for a company to do. The key is that to research is that when research is done properly, the information that we gather about the sample, right, can be extrapolated to the population, which again, it's typically not the entire population of a country, but the population refers to the group that we're studying. So in this case, we would say all those people who drink soft drinks. Question about that? So we have the population, and a subset of the population is the sample. The sample is the respondents that are participating in our research. Any questions about that?
Okay, Professor, no. All good.
Okay. So, but you both made good points about the nature of quantitative research and qualitative research. Remember that what are some of the examples? So one of the questions on the exam is going to be is focus groups an example of qualitative or quantitative research? So you should know the difference between quantitative research and qualitative research, and the difference between primary research and secondary research. These are very important criteria. Now, primary research could be qualitative or quantitative. So that means that we can conduct primary research that involves having respondents participate in focus groups, for example, or complete surveys. What primary research means is that it's research that we as an organization initiate. It's research that we initiate that doesn't currently exist. That's what primary research is. Secondary research is research that already exists. It could be survey data. It could be information from focus groups, but it already exists. Secondary research already exists. And as you were suggesting, secondary research can be acquired on the internet. So there's many websites that have a lot of information about, for example, the beverage industry. So if we're studying the beverage industry as we are now, then there's a lot of information we could find on websites of consulting firms, or on websites like industry associations. So there's industry associations for all types of categories. So certainly for the beverage industry, which I said has annual sales at retail in the United States of more than $200 billion, there's trade associations. What are trade associations? Are companies that join together as part of an association to share information about the industry. So these trade associations, right, like a trade association for the beverage industry, they share things like trends in consumption, frequency, purchase intent, and they prepare state of the industry reports. It's very common. They provide annual state of the industry reports, not just for the beverage industry, but other trade associations produce reports about the automotive industry, for example. So that's an example of secondary research. It's a research that already is available to us. It's not research that we as an organization initiated or conducted. Now, if we initiate research, even if we hire somebody to do the research, that's still primary research. Most companies don't conduct the research themselves, right? They hire a market research firm to do it. And I've done tons of marketing research over the years. And that's one of the reasons I enjoy talking about research with you, is because I have a lot of practical experience. So keep in mind, as we move forward, two different types of research are primary research and secondary research. And we also have to make a distinction between quantitative research and qualitative research. Any questions about that?
No.
No? All right. So
Sorry, Professor, I do have a question. So would you, going back to the focus group, would that be considered as a qualitative research because it's a small
focus groups are qualitative, right? Because
it's a small group.
right. Yes, that's a small group.
Gotcha.
Each focus group is typically 10 to 12 people participating. Right. Now, having identified primary and secondary research, secondary research is gathered first. I know you're thinking, Coach P, why is it called secondary research if that's what we gathered first? Needless to say, that is, in my experience, your approach for gathering research is to gather the secondary research. Now, another difference between secondary research and primary research is the speed at which you can gather secondary research versus primary research. Secondary research, we could go on a website right now and download a 125-page report about the snack food industry, for example, for free, okay? That takes 5 minutes to do that, okay? Well, it takes you 5 minutes. If it takes you 5 minutes, probably takes me 15 minutes. Okay, but you, as executives, I know you could do it quickly. So that's one of the advantages of secondary research, is the speed at which you could access the information. Now, primary research, from the time that you and I, as executives, discuss the research we want to conduct, we put together a research plan, it might be easily 5 weeks or longer before we can start the research, because we have to have a plan. If we're doing focus groups, for example, we have to make a reservation in a research facility to conduct focus groups, because a focus group facility is in large cities around the country, and you need to have a room that has audio recording, video recording, that has a viewing mirror where executives can watch, can observe a focus group that's in progress. So if you're in the focus group room, there's the 12 participants, there's the moderator, and then you see a mirror behind. Behind that mirror is where the executives sit, and they observe the focus group. Now, those are facilities that you need to rent, right? And you need to be aware that just like when you're making any type of reservation, that it may not be available. So besides the time that it takes you to prepare your research plan, you have to expect that there's not going to be availability. And it could easily be 5 weeks, easily. Many times to get to field, that's the term we use in the industry, get to field is 5 to 8 weeks. Now, what did I tell you? In 5 to 8 minutes, right? Or 15 minutes at most, we could download secondary research. Also, secondary research is much less expensive, if not free. Primary research is much more expensive. So I'm trying to draw your distinction between qualitative research and quantitative research, primary research and secondary research. Now we're talking about some of the benefits of primary and secondary research. So some benefits of secondary research is that it's available now. We could download it in less than 15 minutes, and it's much less expensive, and sometimes it's even free. Those are 3 major benefits.
Professor, sometimes it's also depending on what consulting websites have that information access to free, because sometimes certain organizations and certain companies, I can say, sometimes have the information locked, or sometimes have the information where it's not accessible. You got to sign up, and even that, you got to pay for that information on certain occasions, even though half of the times it's free, but then it's not. But in terms of a question for secondary research is more so all information gathered that is sampled. Is that correct?
Secondary research is all the research that currently exists.
Okay.
Already exists is considered secondary research for our organization. Right, so for our beverage company, research that's already available is considered secondary research. Now, Shantae raises a good point. Absolutely, there's a lot of secondary research that's not for free. And some might be $500, some might be $5,000, some might be $15,000. But as an executive, you swipe the company credit card, and within 15 minutes, you'll be able to download the report. However, so that being said, I know for us as individuals, $15,000 is a lot of money. But let me give you some perspective as it relates to primary research. So while $5,000 or $10,000 or $15,000 is a lot for secondary research, to conduct quantitative research, to conduct survey research, moral intercept research, for example, in multiple cities in the United States is over $100,000, over $100,000. Now, that's a big difference between 100,000 and 5,000 or even free, right? Also focus groups, for example. Typically for 4 focus groups is approximately $50,000. And the thing with the qualitative research is when we're doing research, there's a number of things that typically that we study, which is what you see there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's a variety of things that we study regularly. It's not only these things, but we typically study product development concepts. And what that means is that you're not going to just do 4 rounds of focus groups, because what happens during the focus groups is we're going to learn. Remember, for let's say for new product development, we're going to share concepts with the participants. Well, then they're going to give us insight. We're sharing concepts with them. They're going to give us feedback. We want to get a reaction from them as to whether or not they feel that the concept solves a problem that they have. We want to understand how we could improve the concept. So then when we do the next round of focus groups, we're going to try to incorporate their feedback and get additional feedback. So primary research gets expensive pretty quickly. So you do 4 focus groups, that's approximately 50,000. Then you do another 4 focus groups. Now you're up to 100. And you do quantitative research. So it's an investment, but as part of the new product development process, we have a spend a little, which is a relative term, spend a little, learn a little, and then we have a go, no-go decision point. So some concepts may not be viable. We may find out that our target market is not interested in that particular product or service, that they don't feel it solves a problem that they have. So I might think it's a great idea, but the only great idea is the ones that the target market say they will spend money to purchase. So we also study on a regular basis brand awareness. So we do brand tracking studies, and we measure the level of brand recognition and also the brand attitude, right? So what are the attitudes and opinions and perceptions that our target market has about our brand? We also do research regarding our position in the marketplace relative to the competition. So we do research so that we could create a perceptual map. A perceptual map is a graphic representation of our brand relative to the competition. And we could look at different dimensions. Typically, what I've done is develop multiple perceptual maps. And we'll talk more about that. We look at different dimensions, price and quality, for example. So where is our brand as it relates to price? Is it low price or moderately priced or high priced? And what about quality, from low to high? Importantly, a perceptual map shows where we're positioned relative to the competition. This is so important and insightful. If we know where we're positioned, certainly that's helpful to us, because we may choose to reposition ourselves. Like, what if we find out that our target market tells us that they view our product as low quality? Well, chances are we want to change people's perception about our product. We want to make them perceive our product as being a higher quality. Maybe not the highest quality, but higher quality than they currently perceive, so that the perceived value will increase. But that being said, what's so powerful about perceptual mapping is it helps us to identify our competitive set, because again, it shows where we're positioned relative to our competition. These are, those are 3 examples of types of research that we do. New product development typically is mostly done through qualitative research, through focus groups. Brand awareness and positioning is most often done as part of quantitative research. So how do we know what the attitudes, opinions, and perceptions are of our target market? Is typically they complete a survey. That's the most informative. Now, we could have focus groups and ask people about their opinions and perceptions of the quality of our product, for example, or the reliability of our product or the durability. But remember, we're not going to be able to draw any statistical inference. That may be part of our research by having focus groups and asking about the quality and the durability, for example, of our product. But then we're going to want to try to quantify that. Questions about that? So those are three types of research that we conduct. So remember, we talked about primary research, secondary research, quantitative research, qualitative research. Now we're talking about some specific types of research that we do. Now, remember, we said that primary research is more expensive than secondary research. Primary research takes longer to implement, takes time to get to market. However, one of the big advantages of primary research is that the information that we gather is proprietary and confidential. Okay, so now we're on to something, right? So yes, secondary research is easy to acquire. It's less expensive to primary research, but it's not proprietary and it's not confidential. What does that mean? That if we could go to the Beverage Trade Association website and download that report, everybody can download that report, including our competitors and you and the other executives on our team this semester. You can also download it, but competitors, all competitors are downloading that same report. So that's what we could consider to be a disadvantage, if you will. Primary research, although it's much more expensive, is confidential. Nobody else sees that report. Nobody else has access to it. We paid for it. It's our report. We own it. And that's certainly an advantage. Also, something else to keep in mind is that primary research has a specific focus that we define. Now, secondary research, you can find out a lot of interesting things about the beverage industry, for example, but the research that we do find that whether it's $500 or $5,000, very often is not focused on exactly what it is we're trying to learn. It's not focused on the issue that we're exploring. So while it's helpful and insightful, it may not be exactly what we're interested in studying. So that's one of the advantages of primary research, is that the scope is defined by us. So that's an important distinction, is the scope is defined by us and for primary research is confidential. Questions about that?
Yes. At a point, wasn't the secondary research actually a primary research?
For somebody, it was primary research that somebody conducted. But we have to think about it from our perspective as a beverage executive, right, doing research this semester. So for us, research that already exists is secondary research. But you're right, at what Eve is saying is that at some point, that was primary research. Yeah, because at that point, it didn't exist, right? So primary research is research that we initiate that doesn't currently exist. Secondary research is research that already exists, right? Okay, so certainly a lot of research is done around segmentation, because what we're trying to do is identify segments that have similar needs and wants. So we're looking for customers that have similar needs and wants. We're looking for large and reachable segments that are homogeneous in terms of their needs and wants and the way they react to the marketing mix. So, for example, we could segment the market a variety of different ways. We could segment the market based on the sex of the customer. So whether a customer is male or female. We could segment the market based on other types of demographics, like their age group, or their occupation, or their race, or their ethnicity. Yes, companies do segment markets based on race. And the reason is because based on that cultural dimension, they believe that there's differences in the needs and wants of people of different races or different ethnicities. And that's okay, right? That's what we call multicultural marketing. That's not a bad thing. It just means that the company says, hey, you know something? That Chinese Americans have different needs and wants than Hispanic Americans as it relates to beverages, or as it relates to food, or as it relates to any type of product. It may not be true about every product or category, but it's certainly one thing to consider. And that's okay. Even though, you know, there's sometimes sensitivity around cultural dimensions like race, ethnicity, religion. Marketers, talented marketers, the best marketers find ways to meet the needs of groups very effectively. So they're continually looking to try to find groups of consumers that have specific needs. Ideally, the segments are large and reachable. So we do, we gather data and we do cluster analysis, for example. SPSS is a great tool to do cluster analysis. What does it do? Is it groups together information and identifies segments. We could also do copy testing. So what do? We talk about copy testing when we're doing advertising. What we do is we create storyboards for a TV commercial. So what a storyboard does is show different frames in a TV commercial. We could also show concepts for print ads, right? This is known as copy testing, is typically most often used as it relates to testing advertising. So yes, even though some commercials or print ads that you see give you reason for concern, the assumption is that they were tested in research, right? That this advertising was tested in research. That's typically referred to as copy testing, right? So we have a print ad, there's some body copy there. So a print ad typically has a headline, and then there's some body copy that discusses the concept or the features and the benefits of the product or service. You want to test that. You want to get feedback from your target market. And yes, there's things that have advertisements that have been released that gives us concern. Like, for example, H&M released some ads that showed clothing that said the coolest monkey in the jungle. That gives us pause. Like, did you actually showed this in research and nobody expressed concern? So yes, a lot of research is done to test advertising, whether it's a radio spot or a TV commercial or a print ad or a billboard, right? We test those things, right? So what I'm talking about now is these 6 types of research that we do. that's very often done to give you a flavor to try to help make these concepts come to life as it relates to research. So what is research, Coach B? Yeah, these are some examples of research that's done on a regular basis. And of course, customer satisfaction. That's a big part of marketing research as well. A lot of research is done to determine the level of customer satisfaction. And we all get questionnaires, right? Surveys asking about whether or not we were strongly satisfied or strongly dissatisfied, right? Questions about these types of research?
I do. Cluster analysis. I would like the definition of cluster analysis and copy cluster because I was like writing them down just to make sure I have them like, you know.
So cluster analysis relates to segmentation. So what I was suggesting is we do research as it relates to segmentation, identifying groups. So when we gather the data, like, so when we have participants complete a survey, then the survey has information that we could group together into segments. Well, for us to do that manually is very challenging, but SPSS, for example, has as one of its tools, cluster analysis. So what it does is it analyzes the data and creates these segments or clusters, right, is the term that they use, these groups, right? So cluster analysis is a tool that we use to identify segments. And typically, well, there's a variety of different types of segments, right? There's a variety of different ways we could segment markets, demographic segmentation, and that's what I was suggesting before, based on people's age, religion, ethnicity, race, gender, occupation. Those are all demographic criteria. And so demographic segmentation is one way that we could segment a market. Also, geographic segmentation is another. Psychographic refers typically to the hobbies and interests, right? So, so for example, if somebody is a golfer or plays tennis, for example, refers to their lifestyle. Like, for a great example of psychographic segmentation is what's known as the soccer mom, So what that suggests is that moms who are raising a family, that they have certain lifestyle requirements. And one of them is typically, it seems to be taking kids to soccer games and other types of activities. And that's kind of the evolution of the minivan, because it says, well, you can't, how are you going to haul around all these kids, right? To take them to all these activities that kids go to nowadays, right? So that's psychographic is a type of segmentation. And then there's behavioral segmentation. Two key types of behavioral segmentation include usage rate. So low, moderate, and high usage. So one of the things that's identified as an insightful type of segmentation is the frequency at which the target market consumes our product. So are they, when we talk about Coke or Pepsi, what is the level of consumption of Pepsi or Coke or any beverage for that matter, like orange juice, for example? Is it low? Is it moderate? Is it high? And then, so what we have as a result of that type of analysis for that type of segmentation is a group of beverage users that have low consumption, We have those that have a moderate level of consumption and those that have a high level of consumption. Why do we group them together? Because that's something they have in common, is their level of consumption. So we say, this group has a low level of consumption. This group has a high level of consumption. And it doesn't matter what their gender is, what their ethnicity is, their age. We're just interested in their level of consumption, their usage rate. Now, then it's for us to decide strategically, well, what are we going to do about it? Now that we have, we found out, for example, that 22% are, their usage rate is low. That means they drink soft drinks, right, on a limited basis, occasionally. What are we going to do about it? Now, 22% is quite a large segment. We have to decide strategically what we're going to do. Do we just say, oh, forget about that 22%? How about we say, what can we do, Coach B, to increase their consumption level? Questions about that? What can we do to increase their consumption level? We know that their consumption level is low. They told us their consumption level is low. What are we going to do about it? Because there is things that we could do to increase their level of consumption. And this way, our sales will increase. If their consumption level of soft drinks increase, that means that sales in the industry are also going to presumably increase. If they're, we find, and remember, I said reachable. How do we know what their consumption level is? Because they completed a survey. We know who these people are. They told us one of the key aspects of a survey is we ask a variety of demographic questions. So they told us their age, they told us their ethnicity, their religion, they told us all these other aspects, demographic aspects. So that means that they're reachable. We know how to reach them. We know what magazines they read, for example. So they're large and they're reachable. And importantly, before we go, information that we gather in research must be more than just interesting. Ideally, it's interesting. Of course, it's going to be interesting because nothing is more interesting than what the target market says is important to them, right? But it's got to be actionable. That's the reason for conducting research, is to gather information that is actionable, information that we could use to increase sales, to increase the profit of the organization. Questions? You are the best students ever. Your success is my #1 priority. And even if you get knocked down, you don't need to be knocked out. All right?
Thank you.
Hear that, Professor? Some of the terminology from last semester is the same. It's definitely the same. I see brand awareness. I just can pull out my old notebooks.
I hope so. I hope so.
I still got all my school stuff from when I was at my undergrad. So like from my undergrad back in 2004, from even when I was at Brooklyn College, I still have all my notebooks, all my notes.
Professor, I have one question. How can I see again this video call?
What?
How can I see again this video call? I would like to see it, everything again.
Okay, so I believe I'm recording, so I'm gonna post it and send you the link if it actually recorded as I think that it did. And
Oh, perfect. Yeah, thank you very much because I really like that. Thank you.
all right, I'm glad to help.
You
Yes.
still have your YouTube channel, right? That you
Yeah.
upload stuff on YouTube?
What was that, Shantae?
YouTube, because I'm subscribed to your YouTube channel.
Yeah, I'll send you the link. So for our class, what I'll do is I'll upload it to YouTube and then send you the link.
Oh, that's great.
All right. Anything else before we sign off? We'll regroup next Tuesday, same time. But of course, you could reach me, anytime. You could call me, you could text me, anytime, 24/7.
Okay. Do we have homework for next week? For this week? I mean, oh yeah, I know.
The assignment for yesterday was for you to post the introduction
Okay. Yeah, I know that.
and
Professor,
download the case about the Cola Wars and to read that case study. And we're going to talk more about that.
So just read the case study, that's it, right?
Yeah, so we already finished that part. Then do we have more?
Yeah, there's going to be more. We just started. So, yeah, there'll be more. You want more, right? No?
No. I just make sure I didn't
No.
miss it.
exactly what we have on there, that's it.
No, you're there's more. There's more. Don't worry. But so what you should do is before we talk about more is please everybody download the Harvard case about the Cola Wars, and you need to read that. Okay? So make good use of your time. We're going to talk more about it, but yeah, read through that case. It's very relevant to what we're talking about.
Professor, I was going through the slides. Are you gonna use the slides? Because the whole time it was just the syllabus up.
Right. Well, yeah, I'll post some slides for you.
No, I know. I went through the slides already. I was just wanting to know why you're going over everything. Are you gonna also show the slides, or you're not gonna show the slides, or you're just gonna be?
Yeah, it depends. It depends on the meeting.
Gotcha.
The slide is important for the test, for exam, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you need to know the things. Just to quickly review some of the key things we talked about tonight, which you definitely need to know for the exam, is the difference and examples of primary research, the advantages and disadvantages of primary research and secondary research, the differences and advantages and disadvantages of qualitative research and quantitative research, and these different 6 types of research, right? Types of research: new product development, brand awareness, positioning, segmentation, copy testing, and customer satisfaction.
Okay.
You can do it. Yes, you can.
Well, you gave us one answer already, which is quantitative, which is for large samples. So that's the first answer. Do you have the other answers for all the other?
That's what we've been talking about for the last hour.
I'm
Yeah.
kidding.
I went over those things.
No, I'm saying you gave us one of the answers already for the exam. You said quantitative, which is equal to large sample.
Right.
So
Yes,
Professor,
the other things we talked about. When I post the video, yeah, you could find some of the other topics and jot down some notes that you find of interest.
So Professor, just to have some clarity, so only thing we need to do, until the next class is just read the case study and just like take notes, like what you said on anything that we need, right? That's correct, because I'm writing it in my reminders.
Well, what was assigned for yesterday is for you to post your introduction, to download and read the Harvard case study.
What's your introduction per se? Because I just downloaded the Harvard case study. I paid for that already.
Okay, that's great. So that was what was due yesterday. Okay, so that's basically where we are right now, right? In terms of what you need to do so far. So yes, there's more assignments that you're going to have to complete, but that says where we are as of now relative to the first day, which was yesterday. Okay, so yes,
I just wanted some clarity because I was a little confused. That's all.
yeah, so I'm glad that you asked that question. So, yeah, that's where we are right now. So we're off to a good start. So, we'll regroup next Tuesday, but certainly you could expect between now and then, I'll send you some updates via email and also in the WhatsApp chat, okay?
Okay, great.
Okay,
You
Professor.
can reach out to me as well. So if you have any additional questions, you could reach out to me between now and next week, but you'll definitely be hearing from me, okay? So there are some other assignments, right? Other aspects of the course that we're going to be focusing on, right? So these are some of the reading, right? So this is on page 3. So those are the reading assignments. And then, yes, there's also some other written components as well. And I'll update you on that. All right, so for tomorrow, Wednesday, is just to read chapter 20. All right.
Okay, Professor. Thank you for everything.
All
Thank
right,
you,
you're very
Professor. Have a
welcome.
good night.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Bye.
All
Take care.
right. Take care. We'll talk soon.
Thank you, Professor. Have a good night.
All right, you too, Shantae. Thank you very much.
No problem.